Welcome back to the channel all about cooking for beginners. And today we're going to go over how to cut a myriad of vegetables. On the screen now are all the ones we will cover. What we have here is a tomato. We lay it down so it's flat and stable and begin making our cuts, making sure not to cut through it completely. Then we rotate it 90 degrees and do the same thing, making sure not to cut through it completely. Finally, we turn it on its side and begin making some even slices. Once we get to the very end, we can turn it over and make some easy dices here as well, making sure to remove the stem end if desired. And here is a cucumber. I like to peel it because the peel can be bitter and sometimes hard to chew, but as long as you wash it, this step is optional. Cucumbers can be cut in many different ways, the first of which is the basic slice. Just be careful because the cylindrical shape can make it unstable, but this cut is pretty simple. You just make incisions down the cucumber. Next is a diagonal cut, which is the same as the basic slice, you just angle your knife 45 degrees. This cut is better for salads because the increased surface area will hold more dressing. And this is the half moon. Just cut the cucumber in half lengthwise, then make basic slices down the length. It's better because it's a more stable base, and it's good for salads with smaller cut items so the half moons match those sizes. Half moons can also be cut on the diagonal, and they have the same application as the regular diagonal, just another variation for salads with smaller cut items. Half moons can then be cut in half lengthwise to make quarters. You can then slice it thinly for when you want something with a slight crispness to it. Or you can cut it into thicker chunks for when you want a hearty crunch, something like egg salad, tuna salad, chicken salad. These are all good for quarter chunks. Now we're going to de-seed the cucumber, which we do by quartering it, laying it on its side, and slicing across the seeds. We do this because sometimes the seeds can be bitter and they also have a lot of water, so depending on your dish, that excess water might sog it out. Finally, we have the matchstick cut or the julienne, which we do by standing the cucumber up, slicing it into planks, then stacking up those planks and making those matchstick cuts. This method is for when you don't care if the seeds are in your dish or not. If you do want a julienne without seeds, then de-seed your cucumber, stand it on the de-seeded cut side because that should now be flat and stable, and make your matchstick cuts as normal. Okay, here we have celery, which we're going to start with a julienne or matchstick. So lay it on this side so it's stable, and begin making straight cuts down. Next up, we have the small dice, which is good when you want the crunch of celery, but not too much flavor. So to make that, line up the juliennes and begin cutting them down the length. For the large dice, I like to slice the celery in half and then make cuts down the length. This is good for mirepoix or sofrito or the Louisiana Holy Trinity and other vegetable bases. After that, we have the basic slice, so just line it up and begin slicing. This is good because it cuts the length of those celery fibers, making it more easily chewable. And finally, we have the diagonal slice, which is similar to the basic slice, but on an angle. This is good because the increased cut surface area will hold more dressings, so use it for when you want a salad or something with a lot of sauce to it. For peppers, step 1 is top and tail it, basically cut off the top and bottom. Afterwards, we rip out the stem and then make incisions into the body of the pepper, laying it flat and removing the seed pod and any extra seeds lying around. Afterwards, we can make our julienne slices pretty easily. To get diced peppers for something like the Louisiana Holy Trinity or other vegetable bases, all you gotta do is line up your juliennes and slice them down. The top and the tail of the pepper, which we cut off earlier, we don't waste those. We julienne and dice them the same exact way we did it to the body. Next up is cabbage, which I like to cut into quarters because they're very large and unwieldy. After that, we make a V cut into the core to take it out. Just be very careful. And the reason we do this is because the core itself is much thicker than the sliced leaves, so it'll cook at a different rate. Either way, once the core has been V'd out, we put it on its side and begin slicing down the cabbage. Once we get towards the end though, I like to turn it over for a more stable surface and begin making my slices this way. Moving right along to carrots, step 1 for me is always peeling it because sometimes the peel can be bitter and hard to chew, though this is less of a problem if you're getting your carrots in the summer. Either way, wash them thoroughly. The first cut we're going to talk about is the roll cut, so begin by removing the tip and then slicing the carrot, rotating it each time. This will make a unique shape that catches the eye, and it's good for dishes where the carrots will be simmered for a while because of its thick shape. It's also good because the thickness of an individual carrot, tip to tip, can vary wildly, so you can make even cuts by adjusting the angle with which you rotate the carrot each time so you get even slices every time. After that is the basic slice, which is pretty simple, but one tip I like to do is to cut a thin slice off of the carrot so that way you have a stable base to make the slices. To dice a carrot, I like to cut it into sections. Usually this is either into halves or thirds. After that, I take each of those cut pieces and slice them lengthwise to form, again, evenly sized logs. Then line up the logs and begin dicing the carrot as thick as you want. To get a long julienne, I like to again cut a thin sliver off the carrot for a stable base, and then cut the carrot into planks. Afterwards, line up those planks and begin slicing your julienne. One other way I've seen people make shorter juliennes with carrots is to cut them diagonally on a heavy bias. Then line up those slices and begin cutting that way. I hope you found this recipe useful, and for more videos, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.